Hi everyone, this is Khushboo Chokshi and today we will be doing a quick revision of the communication part in foundation. Communication is extremely scoring because it's for 40 marks. It's extremely easy. It is something that you've been doing in school. So even if you don't know something in the law part when you're giving your examination and if you know your communication part well, then you can score that 40 marks and it helps you in clearing. But there are certain things which most of the students miss out. We have already done a video on what are the kind of questions that are asked and which question is compulsory, which is not. But this video is about the things which are very important, and what we've done is we have put all the formats for communication in one file. We'll be sharing it on the Telegram channel. So we have put all the formats for communication in one file. So when you're revising communication, it's very easy for you to revise. Theory question, like we have done in the past, we have discussed in the past, the theory comes only from the first chapter of your communication. So it's a very easy chapter. It's very logical, to be honest. There's nothing that you have to kind of remember, but at the same time it is something that you have to study and go, because each question 7, 8, 9, 10, all of these not 7 will have something else which is mandatory, which we will do, but 8, 9, 10, 11, all these questions, out of which one will be optional, which will go away, but other questions everywhere there's a 2 mark of theory question which comes from your first chapter. There's one more chapter called as meetings, which is also theory but never asked as a theory question in the examination. So all the theory questions are asked only from one chapter, very easy to understand. Then in question number 7, which is compulsory, you have your comprehension, passage, summary making, and you have note making. Again, note making comes for 3 marks. It may sound to be like just 3 marks, but trust me, for CA exams each and every mark is very important, so you should not take it lightly. So note making, which comes for 3 marks, it is extremely easy to do, but most of this time students will make like a note and come, and you will not get any marks for that. So there is a specific format in which you have to do the note and a specific format in which you have to use your abbreviations. So these format and abbreviations, I have listed the rules for the abbreviations here, so that is again something which we will do study here today. So please use this video for your revision. I am hoping the notes will also help you in understanding your theory part and the formats, and for quick revision of your formats on the last day. Now coming to communication, again this is a very simple question always asked. What is communication? Then you will write it in your own words. You will try to make it fancy. We don't have to do that. Communication is where the sender encodes the message and the receiver decodes the message and then gives an appropriate feedback. Just this much you have to write, you get your 2 marks. So there's encoding of message by the sender, decoding of message by the receiver. Then coming to what are the types of communication, there are 2 types based on the communication channel and based on the purpose and style. On the purpose and style, you have formal and informal communication. So any communication which you are using with your friends, with your relatives, or just casually when you are talking to people, that's informal communication. Anything other than that, when you are using in a professional setup, or you are using it in an organization or in your offices, anywhere, that will be considered to be formal. When you're communicating with the government, when you're communicating with any departmental officials, all of that will come into formal communication. So you cannot talk to them as you're talking to your friends, so that's formal communication. With your friends, relatives, you can talk casually, and that's your informal communication. Then based on the communication channel, again you have 3: verbal, non-verbal and visual. So here we have explained all of that. Verbal, may you have written communication, where you write and give your, like if you're writing a letter, you just say write a letter and send it out and the message is communicated. Oral communication, where you're talking on the phone, you have your meetings, and when you're meeting people, at that point of time you have oral communication. Now non-verbal communication, where you're not actually saying out the words. So what are the things? Your body language. When I'm saying something, and if you're negotiating, if you give me a prize, I'm very happy with the prize, I'll be, on my face you will see that I'm quite happy with whatever you're saying. So that is my body language. If I'm not liking something that you're saying, you can see it on the other person's face that he's not really liking what you're saying. So that body language is a non-verbal way of, where you're not saying by way of words, but your body language, the tone that you're using, your posture, all of these things communicate something to the other person. When you're giving an interview, people say you should not be biting your nails, you shouldn't be, you know, rubbing your nails. Why is all of that? Because that shows that you are very nervous. So that is what people see when they are communicating with you, and that communicates a lot about what you are trying to say. It communicates a lot about yourself. So that is non-verbal communication. Body language, the tone, pitch, the style of speaking. If I'm angry, I'll shout, but if I am happy, if I respect someone, then the tone will be different. So that is another way of communication. Then aesthetic communication, sometimes communication is not by words, you just draw something. Like if you see on Instagram also, when you see a painting or when you see a drawing or when you see signatures, people say that, you know, he's drawing these kind of things, it means a particular thing about that person, or if he's signing in this particular way, it means something about that particular person. So that is also a way of communicating. Then you have your appearance and dressing style. If I am going somewhere for a meeting and I'm just dressed casually, it means that I'm not very serious. But if I am wearing all my formals and I'm going very professionally dressed, then it shows the other person that yes, this person is interested in working with me, or he's interested in this particular job. But now with the startup scenario, things have changed, but okay, that's what is there in the books, correct? And you have your visual communications, where you have typography or illustrations. Like on Instagram, you may see a lot of illustrations going on. So there are illustration artists who will just draw a particular thing and you will kind of relate to what they are drawing. So that is called as visual communication, where you see with your eyes and then make out what the other person is trying to tell you. Now, secondly, so you have verbal, non-verbal, visual, and you have formal communication and informal communication. Now coming to the different networks in communication, again favorite question of the institute, asked time and again. So it's all these only, there's nothing fancy that they ask, it's everything from this only that they're going to ask you. So there's vertical communication, which is between a higher ranking employee and a subordinate. So there is a director and there is a senior manager. So when he is giving orders to the senior manager, then this is called as vertical. Senior manager will tell the manager, he will tell the assistant manager, and so on and so forth. So that is called as vertical because it's in a vertical line. In circuit, these people will give a feedback. So that becomes a circuit. So he will say something to him, he will communicate it back. So this is how it happens. You can use these diagrams, and it's there in your module also. You can use these diagrams for the purpose of explanation when you're writing your examination. It will fetch you good marks. Now, then you have chain communication, that follows a chain of command from senior to junior. So here, when it's from senior to junior one, then it's vertical because it's in a line. But when it flows down, keeps flowing down, assistant manager to say associate, and associate to intern. So when it flows down, it's called as a chain because it looks like a chain, correct? So here there'll be top manager who's the CEO, then he'll tell directors, then directors will tell the other person. So this is how it goes, correct? So too much drawing on the page. So this is your chain communication. Then wheel and spoke communication, where a single controlling authority gives command instructions to all the employees. So there's only one person, and say for example, like you have your sole proprietorship, so there's only one person who is actually the owner, and if he's giving kind of instructions to all his employees. So this is called as wheel and spoke communication. And then there is star communication, multiple between all the members. So when all these members also can interact with each other, then it looks like a star, and it's called as star communication. So these are the different networks in communications, extremely important from an exam perspective. Characteristics of effective communication, again something you can write in your own words. Just remember the pointers. I am sure the inside matter you can write it by yourself. So there has to be clarity, it has to be concise and concrete, there has to be coherence, you have to understand and relate what is happening. It has to be complete, courteous, it has to be polite, you can't use rude language no matter how angry you are. Listening for understanding, focus and attention, emotional awareness and control. So emotions, even if you are angry or upset, the emotions cannot go in your formal communication. So these are the characteristics of effective communication. Now coming to the barriers in communication, again a very important question. There's physical barriers, noise, technical disturbance. So when I'm explaining something, if there's background noise or there's constant chattering, or if I'm in an office, I'm called someone for a meeting and there's music being played by employees, all of that is called as physical barriers. So something which is affecting your communication, I'm unable to listen or I'm unable to concentrate, that is called as physical barriers. Then organizational structural barriers. Sometimes there is so much of hierarchy, like here there's so much of hierarchy that if the lowest person has a issue, then he is unable to communicate it to the CEO or the director. So the structure is such that there is a gap in communication, that's called as organizational structure barrier. Then there's language barrier. If you're traveling outside India, or if you're unable to you understand the language that is being used, then in that case you are unable to completely get the message that is being sent by the sender, and hence it's a language barrier that is there. Then you have the cultural barrier. Every organization will have a culture. So when I used to work with a big four, at that point of time it was a culture to wear formals. I cannot go in any kind of jeans or t-shirt or something like that, so casual clothes. Then when I shifted to e-commerce companies, there no one would wear formals, even the CEO would come in shorts. So there, if I go in formals, then everyone would like look at me as if I've come for a fancy dress competition. So there is a cultural barrier, because the culture in both the organizations was different, and because if you don't kind of adopt to that particular culture, then there is a barrier. Then you have emotional barrier, where you are kind of upset with your manager, or if you're angry, or if you're jealous, or if you don't like a particular person, then when you're communicating, then there is an emotional barrier that comes in the communication. You don't communicate effectively, and that is shown in the communication that happens. Then you have your attitude barrier. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, some people are lazy, some people are shy. So depending on what kind of characteristics you have and what kind of characteristics is liked by the other person, correct? I would not like someone who is very extrovert, that's my liking, but someone may like a person who's extrovert, would hate someone who is an introvert. So here it's called as an attitude barrier, wherein you have a problem with the attitude of a particular person, which is hampering your communication with that particular person. Then a perception barrier. Every time you meet a person, you make a perception, whether you like it, you may want to call yourself non-judgmental, but you kind of judge the other person based on the looks, or based on whatever perception you have formed about that particular person, and that perception is carried with you for a long time. So whenever you're communicating, if you feel someone's not good at his work, he may be excellent at his work, but if that is a perception that I'm carrying, that no, she's not good at her work, then that will hamper my communication, because I will then give her work accordingly. So that's called as perception barrier, which you have, where you have formed a perception about a particular person. Then you have physiological barriers, where you are hearing difficulties, or poor eyesight, or ill health. All of these are physiological barriers. And then the last is technology barriers, where you are unable to use a particular technology, or you don't understand technology and everyone knows it, then there's a issue in communication. So these are the barriers in communication, which is very, very important from an exam perspective. Again, a question which is asked, like how I told you about network communication. Now coming to note making, this comes as a 3-mark question. It's a compulsory question, and when you are making a note, so there's a paragraph that's given to you already. Out of that paragraph you will have to make a note. So when I'm making the note, things to be remembered are that I will use numbers like this. Okay, so I will have to kind of break down my pointers into logical paragraphs, which I'll number the paragraphs and write. When you're writing the sentences has to be very short. It can't be very, very long sentences. It doesn't have to be sentence, to be honest. It has to be pointers, where you are just listing down what's there. You will follow the same chronology, or you can change the chronology, that's okay, but this is how you will present it. So once you write this, and when you are writing these sentences, the words that you are using, you have to use abbreviations. So you don't have to use the full words, and you have to kind of shorten the words. How will you shorten the words? So there are 5 ways in which you can shorten the words. One is use the beginning of the word. So if you want to write information, you write info, maximum, max, statistics, stat. This you do normally also, right, when you are writing in your book. So shorten the words. Second is use the beginning words with the final letter. So government, so I use the beginning with the final letter T. Department, I use DPT. Then production, international. So here you use the beginning of the alphabet and the last word, and this is how you do. So these 5 points you have to remember, and when you're making the note here when you're writing, you have to use these abbreviations. You have to shorten the words that you're using, so you don't have to write the full sentence. It's easier for you to write, but people don't remember these points in note making and always skip out on those 3 marks, which is very bad. Then third is you can omit the vowels. Here I am just omitting what the vowels are and I will write the other words. So here everywhere I am just skipping out on the vowels and reducing the word. So it's an abbreviation. Then use the first letter and the last letter of the word. So MT for mount, QT for quad, GL for girl, MR for Mr. So here first and last I will write. And the last is shorten the suffix at the end of the word. So if it is production, I will not write ION, I will just write N. Consisting, again I will not write ING. Processing, I will not write ING. So I am shortening the suffix. So these are the 5 points that you have to remember, and these 5 points you will use for writing the words here. So when you are writing the words here, you will shorten the words and write, and hence it will not be like a big sentence, but it will be like bullet points. And then here you will have your key, and in this key you will write all the words that you have shortened here. So you will write, say for example, government is for government, then the full word here, or MT for mount, GL for girl, correct, consisting, CONSTG, and then you will write consisting. So all the words which you have abbreviated in the above note, the key will have the shortened form what you have used, so that anyone who is reading the note can refer to the key and understand what exactly the note is. If you write it in this particular format, even if you mess up on the text that you have written, but if you just write it in this particular format, I assure you, you will get your 2 marks. So please make sure you write it in this particular format, okay? It's very, very, very important. Then you can also use symbols when you are making your notes. You can also use acronyms which are, which are verified acronyms. If you know of those, then you can use like LIFO, FIFO, CEO, CFO. These are the things which you know. So if you have to write that, you can again use those acronyms. That's not a problem at all. Then coming to Prezi writing. Prezi writing is basically writing a summary of the the article which has been given to you. So they'll give you article, you have to write it in a concise form. It comes for around 5 marks, and when you're writing it in the concise form, you have to ensure that you are writing it in the same order in which the paragraph is written. So the order of the paragraph, the things that are written should not change. That is the importance of Prezi writing. It has to be clear, concise. You have to write it in your own words. You don't have to repeat sentences that are there. It can't be longer than what's already given to you. So it has to be shortened. I think like in your paper, if your handwriting is like the normal average handwriting, then it should be done in like half a page, okay? So not more than that. If you have bigger handwriting, then it's fine if it exceeds, but like half a page is something which is good enough. Then you have your article writing. Again, very simple. Just have to write your article. You have to give a heading, 200 to 50 words, whatever is given to you, you have to write those words. Clear, concise. Don't add anything unnecessary. Don't write something which is not required or doesn't make sense. Go with the flow. There has to be some understanding. There has to be some flow in the matter that you have written. So the person who's reading it, there should be some logical flow in your article. Then you have report writing. There are 3 different type of reports. One is your newspaper report, where you give the title, by who, the name of the author, place and date and the body of the report. Then you have a magazine report. Here you give the body, name of author, title, but you don't have to mention the place and date if it's not required. And then you have your formal or official report. This is when you are doing some launch of if you're getting a new shop, or you're launching a new department or something like that, then you require a formal report. And this is the format. There are two formats which are given to you in your module. You can use any one of those. They are broadly similar. A few things here are added, is like acknowledgement is given to them, or recommendations are given. So all of these things are there, so you can write it in your own words. Just go through the format and ensure that the format is followed when it is a formal report. Otherwise, if it's a newspaper or magazine report, so there's nothing more to write. Just give the heading, who is writing the report, like how you read in the newspaper. Place and date is given in the newspaper. In magazine it is not required. And then your body of the report, so whatever is the text that you have to write. So again, this will come for a 5-mark question. Then you have your formal letters. Letters we have been writing in since school. Important thing is to from you have to write. You have to write the subject line. Subject line you have to underline. Salutation has to be given, and then you will write the letter, and the closing, yours faithfully, yours sincerely, whatever you wish to write. Now there are different kinds of letters here. One is letter of inquiry. So when you're asking someone for some inquiry, that I want to buy say chairs, or I want to buy ball pens. So when you're asking, you give them clear things about what you are asking, what details do you want from him, what is your requirement. That requirement has to be very clear and concise when you're writing the letter. Then you have order letters. When I am placing an order for a particular thing, so I have received the price, now I am placing the order for a particular thing, and you are telling me that okay, I am telling you that I need 7 chairs which are black in color, which has wheels. I want 5 chairs which are blue in color, which without wheels. Exact requirement about what I want has to be given in the order letter. Letter of complaint, where you are unhappy with a particular service that is being given. So first write down reference as to what you are talking about, then you tell what you are unhappy about. Don't get personal, don't get emotional, do not use abusive language. Be nice and just communicate, be stern and communicate what you want to communicate, saying I'm not happy with this particular service because I've been following up, but then I haven't received a response. The customer executives aren't receiving my calls, and I have tried all the phone numbers which are provided. I have written emails to the email ID provided, but I haven't received anything. Request you to please consider the request, or grant me a refund for my product or services that I have taken from you. And that is how you will close your letters of complaint. Then you have replied to a complaint. Again, you acknowledge, you apologize for the error that has happened, and you say how you can rectify it. Also, you can give like a freebie kind of a thing to that person, saying that on your next order we'll give you this much discount, or you will give you 4 additional chairs for kind of, when you're writing a letter to someone who is angry with you, so to make him kind of happy, you write that kind of a letter. Then promotion letters, when you are kind of buying when you're promoting something that you have already, like a shop or some product that you're given, then that will be your promotional letters. Then you have your sales letter. Again, no giving extra details, try to keep it concise. The introduction has to be very clear and concise, otherwise a person will read and he'll stop midway because it's very boring. So keep it crisp and concise, and use formal language. And recovery letter, when the other person is not paying you and you have to recover the money, you are very angry or very upset, but be polite, say that this is the amount, if we don't get it we will take a legal action. So you give him a dhamki, but you give it very politely. Okay, so that is your letter. Circulars, there are only 2 formats. This is for like internal, when within the organization I want to communicate something to all the employees or to a particular department. Then there are 2 formats which I used, and this is the official working hours. This kind of questions are generally asked in the examination. And you have your formal emails. Formal emails again is something which we have done. The language has to be very, very formal. Salutation, main body, if there is any attachment, then you have to give the attachment, and the closing from to CC BCC. So again, that is something which we all know now in the digital age. Then resume writing. Resume writing, important things to remember is that when you are writing your qualifications, then you will write the latest qualification first. So in my case I would write LLB, CA, CS, 12th, 10th. So whatever I have done, the last is what will come first. Similarly, if I am writing about my experience with a company, correct? So here it's written company 1, company 2. So this is the company I am currently working in, and this is my previous company. Then if I have one more company, I am a person who likes to change jobs, then I can have company 3. Then I will say from March say 2018 to March 2020, and then I'll write my experience here. So this is how you will write your resume, and these are the things which are there. The objective is something which is very standard. You can just remember a line, just Google up something, or you can write it in your own words, nothing fancy. And of course you will give your details, you will give references saying that if you want to check. So normally if they give you an letter saying that you have cleared your CA inter and now you want to apply for articleship, so that kind of resume may be asked in the examination. The last part is meetings. Again, it's a theory chapter, nothing fancy asked out of it. Meetings are two kind of meetings. One you have is your organizational meetings, which is within the organization of course, and which is when you want to communicate something to the organization at large. Operational meetings are everyday meetings which I'll have with my manager, senior manager, of what are the things we need to do, how do we successfully get a particular client. So these are operational meetings which are day-to-day operations. One is organizational meetings. Whenever you have a meeting, you have to send out a notice, you have to have an agenda as to what are the things that will be there. Agenda notice is always for organizational meetings, like when you have your shareholders meeting or board meeting, these are organizational meetings. So here you send out a notice, you give out the agenda as to what are the things you want to discuss in the meeting. Once the meeting is happening, you write down the minutes as to what are the things which have actually happened in the meeting. So that's about your meetings, need for agenda and preparation of minutes and how to write the minutes. So this is basically what's there there for your communication part. It's extremely simple, but because it is simple, you do not skip out on it saying that I'll write something by my own. No, you can't write something by my own. You have to know the formats, you have to know what to write in order to write it in your own words. Also, there are synonyms, antonyms, direct, indirect speech, active, passive voice, which come for 1 marks and 1 mark. And these things, even if you do not know the answer, just write anything. They'll give you 4 options. Just take something. Don't leave it blank. If you leave it blank, you're going to get a 0. If you write something, there's a possibility that your answer may turn out to be right. So don't skip out on anything. If you're writing communication first, ensure it's done in 45 minutes. Otherwise, start with law or you won't finish the paper. So if you're starting with communication part first, ensure it's done in 45 minutes or you will skip out your law part. You will miss, you won't be able to finish your paper. So yes, this is communication. I hope this video is useful to you, and if you have any queries, you can drop in the comments below or you can write to me. The notes are attached on the Telegram channel, so you can take it from the Telegram channel. Thank you so much. Bye and all the best.